host, Blake Gardner, here with another episode of the Blitz College Football Show. Today, we are going to talk about bowl season. Of course, it is upon us with two games already kicking off on Friday. The great part about bowl season, 42 games. There's a lot of games, so we're going to have a lot of football coming on here over the next few weeks. Not to mention, we got NFL on Saturday this weekend. So there's a lot of football coming up. If you're trying to get the stockings a little extra right this year, need a little extra Christmas money, then you came to the right place because I'm going to give you some plays for the bowl games. Not going to touch the whole slate. I will touch games briefly, but I'll give you the plays for sure that we're going to go with today. I'll also put them up afterwards in case you didn't catch every one. So don't worry if you didn't catch everyone. With these plays I'm giving you, make sure you gamble responsibly. But we will get right into it. The first game starting off Friday. Not two games I'm going to touch, but two games we'll cover real fast, and that is Miami of Ohio against UAB. UAB is 10.5-point favorites, and that is probably the team I would take. UAB has had a pretty good season. The 6-6 record doesn't really reflect kind of how hard they fought this season. If you know UAB history, that program over the last couple of years has been building from what they were. So I would take UAB minus 10.5, but I'm not touching it. Next game. That game is at 11:30 in the morning too. So bright and early tomorrow, we got some football. At 3 o'clock tomorrow, will actually be today when I release this. But Friday, UTSA versus Troy. This is going to be a great game. Number 24 versus number 25. Both 11-win teams. Non-Power 5 schools that have kind of been in the top 25 conversation now for a few years. UTSA, at least a few years. UTSA is favored by 1, just to give you a glimpse at how good of the game is going to be. I don't have any plays on that. I honestly would probably take Troy money line with the spread being -1. I'd probably take Troy money line if I was betting anything, but not touching that game whatsoever. Going into Saturday, a better slate of games. One I'm personally a little excited for is Cincinnati, Louisville. Those are going to be two good teams. I want to see how Cincy plays without that head coach. First game. And Louisville is favored by 2. Louisville's lost some games here towards the end of the season that were kind of head scratchers with their quarterback Cunningham, who's a lot of people call Lamar Jackson-esque, but I don't think so. I think he is a flashy guy though. So with Cincinnati's head coach leaving, I would take Louisville there. But here's where our first play of the day comes in. Florida versus Oregon State in the Las Vegas Bowl, held in Las Vegas, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Going to be played on ESPN. Oregon State is favored by 10 points. I would like to think that's large in part due to AR declaring for the draft, Anthony Richardson, and him not playing. Not only that, but Jack Miller, transfer from Ohio State, is going to be starting quarterback for the Gators, who has not seen a snap this season. You have other guys like Javon Dexter who declared for the draft, but will be playing in that game. So you're replacing quarterbacks. There's always a lot of questions there with that, but I think with what Billy Napier has been building in Gainesville, I don't think these guys come out here and lose by 10 points to Oregon State, a Pac-12 team. You saw week 1 before Napier had any wits about what he was going to do with the team, without seeing them first. He beat Utah at home, the best Pac-12 team, undeniably. So you take one of their worst teams in the Pac-12, even though we had a 6-6 season, the Gators. I would take them here. I would sprinkle a little on the money line for the Gator upset, and that's no bias. I don't bet on the Gators, just out of principality, but I would sprinkle some on the money line. I actually would bet this game though, and that would be the Gators to cover the 10 points. We're not going to lose by 10 to a Pac-12 team, even with AR not playing that game. There's going to be a lot of younger guys that do get to play that game because of transfers and guys leaving. So it will actually be an exciting game to watch. If you watch their season finale against FSU. You know, how could you? They put up almost 40 points against Florida State and Tallahassee. So definitely give me Gators plus 10. Moving on, Washington State, Fresno State. Not touching this. Start running through these a little quicker here. I would take the Washington State plus 3.5. Fresno State's favored. I would take Washington State 3.5 on that one. Rice and Southern Miss. Lending Tree Bowl, one of those bowls, you know, I said not super interesting. But, you know, if you're a player of the school, alumni of the school, fan of the school, this is awesome. You're still getting to see your team play late in December. But I'm not even going to give you a play on that. I'm not even going to sit here and try to give you any hope on that whatsoever. On to the next game, SMU, BYU. SMU there, high-powered offense, looked pretty good last year. BYU started this year as well as one of those teams that, you know, you thought you'd have to keep your eye on, but both now unranked. SMU's favored by 4. Give me BYU plus 4. If I were to take it, not betting that. The only official play we have so far is Florida plus 10. As far as official plays, and moving on, we got North Texas and Boise State. Boise State 10.5. Bachmeier, if he's still there, if he's playing this weekend, I'm taking Boise State just because the man is so old. I feel like he's been there since I was in high school. And I'm 8 years removed from high school. So let's put that in perspective. So give me Boise State. On to the next game. Marshall, UConn. UConn. If you're a football fan, you know UConn is historically bad. So for them to sneak into a bowl game this year, even at 6-6, is really impressive. And I think they've already kind of won their trophy. With that being said, this wasn't an official play, but looking at it now, I think I'm going to make this an official play. Marshall minus 10 should be a good play there. That is Monday. That is Monday game. Eastern Michigan and San Jose State. San Jose State's favored by 3.5. I'm not even going to put a guess on that one. Liberty and Toledo. You got Liberty's coaches leaving. Hugh Freeze leaving for terrible football fan of me. But Hugh Freeze left. I still would take Toledo minus 5, or not Toledo, Liberty plus 5, even with the loss of that coach. Not an official play though. Western Kentucky, South Alabama. Give me South Alabama. They're a 10-win team right now. Baylor, Air Force, great season. Baylor in that Pac-12 showed us this year that they know how to play offense, which I guess they do every year. I retract that statement, but we know, I should say, Big 12 can pass the football. So I like Baylor minus 5.5. Louisiana, Houston's favored by 7. And this is Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, where Billy Napier, Gator head coach, now left last year. No play on that. I liked Houston early in the year, but they've just been really inconsistent throughout the entire season. You would expect them to beat a Louisiana team like this, but no telling. Wake Forest, Missouri. Wake Forest is only favored 1. I would take Wake Forest unless Sam Hartman's not playing for whatever reason. I know there's rumors he's planning to transfer, but unless he's not playing, give me Wake Forest minus 1 against Missouri in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. Next bowl game is MTSU, San Diego State. San Diego State is favored by 7. Like I said, this is another one. I'm not just gonna throw a play out there. I don't have enough knowledge up there to give you. So I think San Diego State wins, but not touching it. We'll skip past New Mexico State versus Bowling Green. Georgia Southern versus Buffalo. Give me Georgia Southern. They're favored by 3.5. Memphis versus Utah State. Give me Memphis. They're favored by 7. Coastal Carolina, East Carolina is a really interesting matchup. Both recent FBS schools, used to be FCS schools. So great, great for their both individual program. With Coastal Carolina, I'm getting Coastal Carolina just because of the field. Not an official pick, but if you ask me, Coastal Carolina wins that game. One of the biggest picks for me, I think this bowl season is going to be the Wisconsin-Oklahoma State game. Now, the pick a half for that game. We'll get to in a second, but I'll just start off with going over these offensive statistics for both teams. Wisconsin averages 26.5 points per game in the Big Ten. This is in the Big Ten. They're averaging 26.5 points a game. Oklahoma State 31, almost 32 points a game. You put those together, that's over 50 something points. You look at their last five. Wisconsin has a loss to Minnesota, Big Ten action. I won't talk about the score. Nebraska, Big Ten action. Won't talk about the score. But they 2 losses in their last 5. You look at Oklahoma State, on the other hand. In their last couple losses, they haven't put up a lot of points either. But this is another team that is known to score. These Big 12 teams, they will score, and especially against like a Wisconsin who isn't known for their defense as much as like the rest of the Big Ten. Give me the over. I want to say it was 42, over 43 points in that game. I like both teams to score at least about 20, 21 points apiece. Mertz is transferring, so I'm not sure if he's playing or not in that game. That definitely has a lot to debate on that game. So if there's any reason he's not playing, throw that bet out the window. But if Graham Mertz is playing, as well as Sanders for Oklahoma State, both of those guys can throw the ball, throw the rock. Give me over 43 points. Next play is going to be Wednesday, December 28th. This will be after Christmas. UCF and Duke play in the Military Bowl. Duke is favored by 3 points against a UCF team that will either beat you into the dirt or lose in a very head-scratching way. UCF's last loss to Tulane is kind of understandable. Tulane's had a great season, conference opponent. UCF, they squeak out a win by 7. Before the championship game against Tulane, when they played in regular season, they win. And then Memphis as well, they win over 40-plus points in their last 2 games. Duke as well, scoring a lot, scoring more than you would think. Against Wake Forest, they won, putting up 34 points. Even in the loss against Pitt, they put up 26. The other games they won. And their last 5 games, they haven't scored less than 24 points. With that being said, and no, trust me, this is not going to be all overs, I promise. But give me the over 62.5 of that UCF Duke game. So far 3 plays. We got Florida plus 10, Wisconsin, Oklahoma over 43, and give me UCF Duke over at 62.5. Moving right along. We won't even dwell on it too long. The Kansas Arkansas game. Excited to watch that game. I think it's gonna be a great game. Arkansas, I think, will fight a little bit, but that SEC pedigree is just gonna kind of overpower, I believe. Congrats to Kansas for their turnaround year, great year that they've had down there. But give me Arkansas minus 3. Oregon and North Carolina. Official play. Oregon's favored 14 in this. And North Carolina may have no defense in the world. I understand that. I 100% understand that because they don't. They're scoring 35 points a game. So they're scoring 5 times a game. I don't think any team putting up 35 it's really hard to lose by 14 when you put up 35 points without us watching a classic. If it's an ESPN game time classic and they lose by 14 because Oregon put up 50 points, then hey, like I said, we just watched a classic. The over under for measurement is 72 points. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I think Bo Nix is going to play good in this game. If he does play, I'm not sure. I've not looked at if he is playing in this one or not. So that would have changed this official play if he didn't play for whatever reason. But I think he's playing. And with Oregon coming off a fresh loss to Oregon State, putting up 34 points, I like UNC plus 14 here. 2 touchdowns to next year Heisman finalist Drake May. I don't think so. These guys have been able to score a lot. I honestly think they're points per game average would be a lot higher if you take out their last 3 games that they've played, where they only scored 10 points against Clemson, um, 17 against Georgia Tech, and then in 2 OTs they scored 27 against North Carolina State. So I think that their last couple of games they've had have kind of messed with that statistic. But if you look at it, North Carolina, that's ACC play. That's like core ACC play. That North Carolina State and Clemson game, if they win, they're in a much different bowl. They are ranked probably right now. So, just a couple games away from being a middle of the pack ranked team. You got Oregon at 15. High scoring game for sure. But I don't think Oregon runs away with this, which is essentially what Vegas is saying here. So give me Tar Heels plus 14.5, or plus 14. I'm sorry. Moving right along, Texas Tech and Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl. I'm not sure why it's -3, and it's maybe because Ole Miss hasn't been looking the strongest lately. But when I say that, their losses come to Mississippi State, which by 2 points, Arkansas, who laid it on them, Alabama, and LSU. So they're not losing to scrubs. These are teams that are up there and in the playoff were in the playoff conversation up until the last couple of weeks. Meanwhile, you Texas Tech can't score. You do have a Texas Tech team that can score, but purely off the Big 12 versus SEC opponents, like strength, you got to take 3 points. Give me Ole Miss -3. The money line might be a safer play there, but official play, Ole Miss -3.5. Syracuse, Minnesota. I think that's going to be a defensive game. I think that's going to be kind of, I hate to say boring. Football's not boring, but that's going to be kind of one where you're yawning. Not a lot of excitement, I'll say, with that game. Oklahoma, Florida State. Oklahoma has been a dumpster fire this year. I don't know what happened. A lot of people point fingers at Lincoln Riley, I guess. But you see other programs that can lose a head coach and still, look like contenders. We're talking about Oklahoma that made Kyler a number 1 pick, that made Baker Mayfield a number 1 pick. Like this is a good program. So unfortunately not this year though. They finished the year with 6-6, and they're playing a Florida State team that's hot. I'm talking about the best Florida State team we have seen and will see in the past 5 years and probably the next 5 years. So give me them old nose. Not an official play. But Florida State -7.5. I think they'll cover that. Texas and Washington. This is a very interesting game right here to me. This will be an official play. Texas has they get so much slack every year. They get so much leeway every year, and I don't know when it's going to stop. We don't care if you have Quinn Ewers. We don't care that Archie Manning's coming in there. We don't care. Texas is set to come to the SEC here soon, so we'll really see if Texas is making a resurgence, or they're going to go back to where I think they belong, and that's down towards the bottom of whatever conference they're in. May it be Big 12 or where they're coming out of the SEC, as well as Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming to the SEC is about to be tough, and that might be why Lincoln Riley got out of there. But one of my favorite statistics with this game is Texas -4.5 is what their favorite. 81% of the bets are on them to cover -4.5 spread. Don't know if it's Texas fans. Not sure why the Huskers are not getting any love here. The Huskies average 40 points a game. 40 throughout the entire season. The Huskies average 40 points a game. Scored over 50 points in their last 2. The most recent coming against their rival, Washington State, 51 points. Colorado, which was expected, put up 54 points. This is a team that can score. Texas will have weeks where they can score, and we saw them shut out. I forget who it was, but we saw them shut out a very formidable team a couple weeks ago, and I remember that. I do not forget that. But I just don't think Texas is primed for big-time football. I think in hindsight now, going back and looking at that Texas close loss against Bama, not as impressive now as we thought it was at the time. With the volatility that Alabama's had this year, you weren't facing the best and best of Saban, and you couldn't do it. You couldn't pull it off. You're gonna let Saban reload this year, and if you were to have that same game next year, I would take Alabama by 14. So I'm not a Texas hater. I'm really not. I just wish they would perform before we give them their flowers. So with that being said, give me Washington minus 4.5 or plus 4.5. I'm jumbled up. Washington plus 4.5. All right, and sprinkle just a little bit of money on Washington money line. Washington could come out here and outright beat Texas. Huge value on that money line. But I also wouldn't be scared to sprinkle the over as well, which is sitting at 68 right now. I mentioned Washington is scoring 40 points a game. Texas is also scoring 35 points a game. So that could be a shootout. And the Alamo Bowl, that'll be next Thursday. So yeah, you guys can come back, jump back to this video. Make sure you save it. Keep it in your saved videos, keep it in your most recents, because you'll be wanting to come back to this for this entire bowl season. I promise you. Next Friday, we have Maryland and NC State. Pretty interesting game. I would take NC State to win. Baby Tua at Maryland is great quarterback. Maryland's offense is pretty decent at times. I don't think enough to keep up with NC State, though. NC State has had some impressive performances this year. Pitt and UCLA. Dorian Green Robinson. I know I just messed his name up, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Quarterback from UCLA. They're favored by 6 against Pitt. I think he goes out with a bang. I think he throws up some numbers here against Pitt. This isn't the Pitt team from last year. Pitt did finish 8-4, but I think UCLA goes out with a bang. Give me -6, non-official play. Notre Dame, South Carolina. Notre Dame's favored by 2 points. I would think that'd be a little higher if South Carolina hadn't beaten the two teams they just beat recently, Tennessee and Clemson. Playing good old Beamer ball here at the end of the year. You have to give them their flowers with that. The rest of the season hasn't looked so good. They dropped one to Florida earlier in the season, but I'm not going to touch this game. That's what's going to happen. It's not on the slate. The spread is -2. The spread is ugly for the lower ranked team, and Notre Dame at 21. So we're staying away from this game. I would take Notre Dame as winners, though, if you ask me. Ohio, Wyoming. Give me Wyoming. Tennessee and Clemson. The Orange Bowl. The actual Capital One Orange Bowl. We got two orange teams. Hendon Hooker, as we know, is hurt. Jalen Hyatt, sorry, just declared for the draft. So I don't think he's playing in this game. So you take out your best two offensive weapons. Give me old Dabo. -6.5, right where I want it, right where you like it. Touchdown spread. Give me Clemson on the touchdown. I mean, I think that was pretty self-explanatory. You take out Tennessee's best part of their team,